Oh, we have someone from Scarborough, Davenport, Danforth, Burlington. Oh, that's awesome. Um, Scarborough, Mississauga, Whitby, but grew up in Scarborough, Gilwood, Scarborough. That's awesome. Melbourne. Rouge is really important as well because a lot of it is environmentally significant. Toronto. Great. Okay, so we have a lot to cover, so we will start. Um, Hi everyone. My name is Fiza, and I'm one of the co-founders of Scarborough Environmental Association. I'm also a board member of TTC Riders and a Toronto Nature Steward. I'm really looking forward to seeing how we can hold our politicians accountable and how we can actually fight Bill 5 to protect our environment and also ensure that we maintain the democracy that we have and not let Doug Ford undermine it again. And so I will introduce Clara, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Clara. I'm an artist and I'm a volunteer lead steward with Toronto Nature Stewards, and I also work with Scarborough Environmental Association sometimes. And later on, I'll be telling you a little bit about the sort of big stuff that is covered in Bill 5.
Amazing. And then we also have Sonia, who is another Scarborough environmental lead. She built the map that we'll be talking about later today, and she is going to help facilitate this event. If you have any questions, she will reply to you in the chat, as well as, admitting all the participants. So appreciate that. Okay, so a bit more about Scarborough Environmental Association. We are a grassroots organization. We're looking to build a network of um, community leaders that the purpose is activating groups on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis. Local change is the most effective because, again, we are holding our municipal, provincial politicians accountable, and it is the easiest way because what do they care about? They care about numbers, they care about our votes. But we are also organizing against the threat of climate change. Um, so we hold service-based programming to promote civil engagement, community building, and fight social isolation. We have again, social isolation is a huge thing because if you feel like your parks don't matter, nothing matters in terms of like these politicians are all above me and they're like an act toward like just against me, then you won't engage. There is that social isolation as well. We want to make sure that we are engaging with our community, we are engaging with our neighbors. And then we also hold events like bird watching, repair cafes, zine workshops, clothing swaps, bike repairs, and much more. Also, just quick housekeeping. If we can mute ourselves, just if we're not talking, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. That would be amazing. And then, Clara, if you want to.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Clara again, and I'm going to introduce a little bit about, first off, Ontario's biodiversity, and then moving into the sort of bigger scopes of Bill 5. So Ontario is Canada's most biodiverse province. Ontario is home to over 30,000 species and encompasses a vast array of habitats from the Carolinian forest in the south to the tundra in the north, as well as the boreal forest, which is sometimes referred to as the Amazon of the North, for its global significance in both biodiversity and carbon sequestration. We live in a really, really beautiful place, which is extremely biodiverse, and it's so, so special. It's also a critical freshwater resource. The province contains 1/3 of Canada's surface freshwater and supports really diverse aquatic ecosystems. Both of our aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems are facing a myriad of attacks, ranging from legalized oil pollution in the Great Lakes waterways to the carving up of the boreal forest and northern peatlands for mining and oil projects. This sort of habitat destruction is the primary driver behind the decline of our species at risk, with over 240 species currently at risk in Ontario. 16 of these species have already been driven to extinction within Ontario, and without immediate action, that number is poised to increase. Bill 5 will facilitate further destruction. Slide 2, please. So, Bill 5, the Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act, is an omnibus bill, which means that it makes many large changes all at the same time. These proposed changes include the repeal of the Endangered Species Act, which proposes to dismantle Ontario's Endangered Species Act, removing critical protections for over 240 species at risk. It also opens up Ontario to special economic zones, granting the Premier and appointed individuals or corporations the authority to bypass provincial and municipal laws, undermining democratic oversight. These are the two most sweeping changes in the bill and will most directly impact the government's ability to bypass other existing legislation and regulation at will. Slide. Um, Bill 5 also includes other proposals that would severely impact Indigenous sovereignty, environmental protections, and local health, such as amendments to the Mining Act, which would allow unilateral decision making for mining exploration, reducing environmental safeguards and Indigenous consultation. Environmental review cancellations, which would eliminate environmental assessments for projects like a proposed landfill on a major Southern Ontario river and the Eagle's Nest mine in Northern Ontario, as well as the cancellation of archaeological assessments, which would remove requirements for archaeological assessments on major projects, disregarding Indigenous heritage and further aiding in the facilitation of land seizures. So these five categories in Bill 5 are deeply intertwined and clearly illustrate the government's intention to deeply deregulate industry at the cost of our environment, communities, histories, and futures. Each of these points has staggering implications, and today we're going to be focusing on the repeal of the Endangered Species Act and the institution of special economic zones. These 2 points have the broadest applications and really support the other proposed legislation in this bill. Okay, so what is the Endangered Species Act? The Ontario Endangered Species Act 2007 is a piece of legislation which guards Ontario's species at risk and their habitats from harm caused by human impacts, particularly irresponsible land use and unwarranted environmental extraction at really large scales. So, by protecting habitats on a wider scale, the ESA not only ensures the survival of species at risk, but also all other species that share their ecosystems, ensuring stability, climate resilience, and protecting against ecosystem collapse. This ensures a healthy ecosystem for all of us and is as much about keeping common species common as it is protecting the most at risk. The ESA also includes requirements to develop recovery strategies for species at risk. This is not only critical for the recovery of our environment, but also creates many jobs in the environmental sector of our province. So, Bill 5 will completely repeal the Endangered Species Act if it is passed. It would replace it with the Species Conservation Act 2025, which is a piece of legislation so weak that it does not provide any real environmental protection, and I really hesitate to call it a protective legislation at all. This act would remove habitat protections, reducing protected area to only the animal itself and its dwelling place, which means its den or its nest or critical root zone of a plant. The entire habitat around it would now legally be open to destruction. So, in theory, I couldn't shoot a badger or dig up its den, but I could turn its entire woodland up to a few feet of the burrow into an active mining site. It is very, very dishonest to present this as any sort of environmental protection. It's very much as if someone destroyed your entire home but left your bed untouched and claimed that that was all you needed to survive. This also removes requirements to develop recovery strategies for species at risk, leaving them extremely vulnerable to local extinction and impacting many potential jobs in the environmental sector. And this gives the government, meaning Ford and his designated cabinet, the power to add or remove any species from the protected list. This is power that is free to use for political and financial reasons rather than scientific reality. It's important to note that even the aforementioned protections for dwelling places may be bypassed by industry simply by registering harmful activities online. This allows direct species removal and destruction to automatically proceed with no environmental consultation. You basically just can submit a form and go ahead if you would like to. Okay, special economic zones. So if Bill 5 passes, Cabinet can create special economic zones anywhere in Ontario at any time for any reason. Once a zone is designated, within that zone, chosen projects and proponents can be exempt from any and all provincial and municipal laws, including but not limited to environmental, labor, or heritage protections. So once a zone is declared, Cabinet has the power to designate what laws apply there and to who. This can and will be used to override environmental law, but once in place, any law can be exempt for the government or a chosen company. So this could include health and safety for workers, local privacy laws, anything. This bill also prevents legal actions against the government or its agents concerning special economic zones, effectively removing any and all accountability. Special economic zones can bypass existing municipal bylaws and provincial statutes, undermining local governance and decision-making authority. This has a very high potential for abuse. This provision enables unchecked power, allowing the government to sidestep legal safeguards and facilitate controversial projects without public scrutiny or accountability from the legislature. So, even if the Endangered Species Act or any of the other provisions attacked in this bill were preserved, under this legislation, the government could declare an area a special economic zone and then override the Endangered Species Act in that area. I really want to emphasize that these law-free zones can be designated anywhere at any time. This can be used in the Ring of Fire to override Indigenous sovereignty in Northern Ontario. This can be used in Ontario Place to make the Therm megaspot exempt from the law. This can be used to seize land from provincial parks. It can override greenbelt laws, and even if he desired, the premier could seize your home or your neighborhood by declaring it a special economic zone under Bill 5. It's all possible and permitted. It sounds quite extreme because it is. But again, we can turn this around. That's why we're here. And I'd really like if Fizza can take over and talk a little bit about what we can all do together to stop this heinous bill. Thank you for listening.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So how did we get here? Um, Essentially, the election turnout was 45%, which 43% voted for PCs. So what does that mean? That means that 19% of Ontarians are actually supporting Doug Ford. Um, and so because of that, we have Doug Ford making all these rules, um, and he has 100% of the power. So this means that if every non-PC MPP voted against Bill 5, it would still pass. And unfortunately, this is how our rank balancing works. We're not going to talk about that today, but there's stuff that you can do about that. But how so at this point, what do we do? What is the solution? We need to make a huge stink. We need to be as annoyingly as aggressively annoying as possible because this really worked for the green belt, where internal party pressures made Doug Ford go back on selling the green belt because of how unpopular it was. Essentially, they really care about numbers being voted in, and they care about how the media portrays them. And so there, I'll give you actions on what we can do, but we need to make sure that we are really forcing internal pressures against Doug Ford and especially the conservative parties. So we can see that in Mississauga, Eric Mills, the Conservative Party only won by 20 votes. These are ridings that we should especially focus on because of how close the election was. And so these are the people that we can really, really pressure. There was a person here from Burlington, you know, that 40 votes, not a high margin. So we can really push these people saying, we will not vote for you. We will organize against you. We will have protests outside of your office. And this is what we will do until you listen to us. If not, we will tag you, we will post you about you, and this is what we will do because again, they care about how they're viewed, and this is really important. So we need to ensure that we are pressuring particularly conservative MPPs, especially in close ridings. So we can see the close ridings right here, but then we also have a map. I'm gonna stop sharing. Hold on. I'm gonna share this map that we have that is very useful to understanding how much of the majority of conservative MPPs are in Ontario. So hold on, sorry, I have technical issues right now. um, there you go. Okay, So we see this map. If you zoom out, thank you to Sonia for building this as well. That's a large amount of conservative MPPs. Okay. So again, if we zoom in and we see kind of the GTA area, Mississauga Eric Mills, Brampton East, these are the MPPs who struck down the Greenbelt investigation. So these are the people who, again, we can pressure and we can kind of ensure that, hey, if you do not vote for what your constituents actually want, we will not vote for you. We will organize against you. And this is the main thing as well. And so essentially, we want to make sure that we are as loud and aggressive as possible, peacefully, I guess, um, as possible. So again, we want to make sure that what can we do? We have having meetings with your MPP. Again, if you want help with setting this up, any of these kind of action items, if you want help setting this up, today we will do the stuff that um, is bolded, and we will talk about how we can do that as well. So essentially, we can call your MPP and say, hey, I really don't like what you're doing. I want you to vote against Bill 5, and I want you to say that this is something that you will not vote for, and you will pressure Doug Ford not to vote for as well and pass. These are things that we want to make sure that we are doing. And again, calling your MPP, I know it sounds like, oh, what if someone picks up? No one will pick up. It will go to voicemail like 99% of the times. And so you can leave as much voicemails as possible. You can send as much emails as possible. We want to make sure that they understand that people care about this issue. And honestly, this really worked for the Greenbelt. And even understanding how they care about numbers, they care about the constituents, especially for example, if you're a part of a faith-based group, if you're a part of a professional group, a hobby, if you have like a run club that you're a part of, you can write an open letter and you can say, David Smith, Scarborough Center's MPP, I really don't like what you're doing with this. We want you to vote against Bill 5. Unless they say I will vote against Bill 5, do not stop. As simple as that. We cannot stop um, advocating for fighting this bill. So we can also comment on the Ontario Environmental Registry. So we have until uh, May 17th. I'm going to put a couple links in the chat that are going to be very helpful for today's session. Oh, okay. Okay, it's not letting me put all of it. Okay, that's fine. Okay, there you go. These are all really helpful for today's session. Essentially, all of the links to the environmental registry is on there. Um, Also, the public hearing for the Legislative Assembly. So we can two things. We can um, comment on the environmental registry. We can also comment on the public hearing, and this will be read out at on May 26th. We can also organize a small protest. So if you need help with organizing a small protest, again, it doesn't have to be this huge protest. It's ensuring that we are community building, we are organizing. Reach out to us, we will help you. You can also poster your area. So the particular ones that we talked about, the conservative ridings that won by a very small margin, postering in these areas would be very, very helpful. If you live in Scarborough, we will offer you free posters. Let us know if you're interested in that, and then also sharing the message. So I saw one person who wasn't wanted to share the link to their friend. That's amazing. So we want to make sure that we're talking to our parents that live not in the GTA, a little bit outside of it, but they live in a conservative riding. Doesn't matter. Talk to them. We want to make sure that they're sending the emails, they're calling, and then I also just for fun put Doug Ford's contact. If you want to just casually have your 5 minutes in your break and you want to casually just call with Doug Ford, do that. Honestly, like just leave them a voicemail because you will never get someone on the call. You want to make sure that you are aggressively being annoying. Like this is how it works. We want to change the narrative of how um basically he's saying this is a great economic bill. We want to change that narrative, saying no, you're actually overcoming and undermining our democracy, and you're ruining our economy, or not well, also economy, but ecology, right? And so we want to make sure that we're doing that. This is a beautiful poster that Clara created. Everyone, amazing. And then, so how do we make this email and how do we make this comment? So we want to make sure that we introduce ourselves. We want to say that what do you do? Where do you live? And why does protecting wildlife matter to you and the species at risk? Clearly state your stance. You have to be very direct. Say, I oppose Bill 5, and you can put any of these, okay? So essentially, we want to be very direct and we want to essentially say very black and white things. Like, I need you to say no to voting for Bill 5. Unless we hear no, don't stop emailing them. The whole, I understand your concern and we value the environment. That is not a reply. That means nothing. So we want a yes or no stance on their end. You can provide strong reasons for your stance as well. If you're indigenous, for example, and you have a very strong um, connection to your culture, and you want to make sure that it is maintained. That is something that is very important, and you want to maintain, and you want to write that in the comments and the emails, as well as you can close with an action. So you can copy this if you want, but I recommend just writing something very small. But closing with an action means I urge you to vote against Bill 5 or you will not have my support in the future. Um, you cannot, it doesn't matter if you vote conservative. Literally, it doesn't matter. Just you can just say that, you know? So this is how we want to make sure that we are approaching it. And we want to be respectful. We don't want to be disrespectful. We want to be kind of so that we are being kind of listened to. If they see some very long swearing email, they're not going to read it. They're going to be like, this person probably doesn't live in my writing. And so they will ignore it. So we want to be respectful. We want to essentially understand that the people who are reading this are staff members and they will be conveying that information as well. Okay. Any questions before we do the. Okay, sorry, let me go back. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, any questions, concerns?
Can I say something just with my voice?
Yes, feel free. Awesome.
Hi, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Tanika. I just wanted to get clear. Would you like us to focus on our MPs, or like you're saying there's particular ones that might be good? Because I've actually got a reply by mine. I don't know how, and it's basically sent me something from the minister saying, "Oh, it's not that bad," and gave me all these points from my MP in Whitby, MPP. So I'm wondering, do you want me to keep maybe following up with him and others that were on that map, like that are, but I might not live in that riding, but still making those calls? I just wanted to get clarity.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we want to make sure that we're targeting our MPPs just because that is the most effective because they care about our vote, right? Even if your MVP is like, for example, like NDP, they're probably not voting towards Bill 5. What we want to ask them to do is how are you going to advocate and fight back against Bill 5? So in terms of are they holding any action, right? So for example, I live in Scarborough Southwest. Dolly Begum is my MPP. I have emailed her saying, I'm concerned. I understand that you're also concerned, but what are we actually doing about this? Are we holding a rally? Are we holding a protest? Are you sending out emails? Are you doing leaflets? Like, what is it that you're actually doing to fight back and advocate uh, and inform people of what is actually happening, right? So it doesn't matter of what party line your MPP is, just that we are reaching out to our particular MPP and getting some form of um, outcome. So the outcome can be a rally, the outcome can be, yes, I'm not voting for this bill, but if I'm not voting for this bill, what am I doing about it? Right? So again, we're pressuring even progressive MPPs to do something about it. And I know this sounds like very grim, but that's just how it is. Okay, like I'm sorry.
Can
Does
I
that answer
also
your question?
add?
Oh,
Can I also add that those writings that we highlighted, if you don't live in them, but you know people that do, it's really important to let your friends know who live in those writings to focus on, like really going after those MPPs as well. So that's why we want to highlight them, so that you can kind of like we can put pressure accordingly.
yeah. And Jennifer, I really like your comment as well. So like if I'm just gonna share my screen really quickly, I hope this doesn't take too long. But if we see, oh, did it work? No, it didn't. Sorry. Okay, if we see Rouge Park, oh look at that. Where is Rouge Park where the zoo is at, right? Vijay um struck down the investigation for the Greenbelt. Surprisingly, he's also conservative, you know? So it's like we can also message these particular people as well. And then also what you asked, there would be no issue with emailing these people. It's just that I think that the your energy would be better served in like local advocacy. Any other questions, concerns? Because but after this, after the question and answer period, we're going to just talk about the action items again. And what we can do is we can discuss what makes a good comment, what makes a good email as well. I know I already touched on that, but if you have any questions while you are writing it, so we're just gonna spend the next half an hour calling and writing to our MPP. And I know this like and if you need any help in terms of that, we are here for this as well.
Fizza, could I,
Don't call your don't call your MPP yet. We're gonna do it all together. It's gonna be exciting.
uh, it's Sarah. I just wanted to make a comment that the same thing is happening in British Columbia right now. They have a bill 15 that essentially is the same thing, like let's do things quickly and avoid all the laws. And my concern also with Carney saying build baby build, quickly. I think it's kind of a unfortunate trend, but we could also be making a national argument for stronger environmental protections, like do
Yeah.
both our local people, but also pressuring the government, the federal government, to ensure there's something about fish they're that are protected federally that has helped us with the 413.
Mhm.
So I'm just wanting people to know that it's unfortunately not just Ford.
Yeah, I think we will see this a lot in the future because like the audacity of him to even like attack the Greenbelt is crazy. And I did not expect it to be so blatant. And so it's like we are seeing this liberal conservative parties regardless. So it's like it doesn't matter on kind of like what riding you do live in, M MP. Um, just ensure that you are advocating in all levels of government. But right now we do want to focus on um Doug Ford. And I think that's like we can CC everyone else as well and making that argument of like this is something that is concerned for all of Canada. Because again, Ontario's environment is not just tied to Ontario. It's spread out. It does that's not how nature works, right? Clara, you had something to say as well.
Yeah, I did want to say that like that's a really good point, Sarah. And we've been seeing this like more than just Ontario and BC. Like there's been some moves to destroy like some of the last breeding habitat of caribou in Alberta recently. It is happening everywhere. In terms of like where our advocacy is needed in the intense short term, it's going to be what we're talking about right now.
Hmm.
And where it's needed in the intense long term, I really like everywhere, federal pressure, and certainly some of the federal legislation can help in making certain arguments around our provincial legislation now and then. And what was right, Fizza, you were talking about how our environment is not just like localized to Ontario, right? Like
Mhm.
this removes like, for example, all protections for migratory birds. These are birds that go all the way down to South America, so this has the potential to impact the environment globally, down in South America and everywhere in between. It removes protections for all aquatic species throughout the Great Lakes Basin, affecting, things out to the seaway. It's huge. It's big. It's yeah. I don't know. I guess I'm just echoing what was already said.
Yeah. And just to recap as well, like I know we're just like repeating a lot, but like repetition is key, I guess, in my opinion. But again, having a meeting with your MPP, it creates direct pressure. So this is something that can be done with literally just your family or like literally like your friends. It can be very simple. It can be like four, two, three people. It does not have to be this huge group. And just keep requesting a meeting. Just keep requesting it because they're trying to push as soon as possible. Claire, do you want to give the dates and the timelines as well?
Yeah, so there's a couple key dates. The first one is May 17th. May 17th is the last date to submit your comments at the Environmental Registry of Ontario. So, the Environmental Registry of Ontario is taking comments because they are legally required to take comments on any bill that affects the environment in Ontario. It's very impactful. We want to like it is very impactful to flood this. We want a lot of opposition in these comments. However, as with most environmental things, it is sort of the kind of thing where they can take your comments, read them, and choose to disregard them. So it is then more impactful to really, really pressure your local legislature as much as you can. Um, the dates for the public hearings are going to be May 21st and May 26th. We can submit letters to be read aloud at those hearings. Um, and we don't have a hard date for when the vote is going to be at this time that I'm aware of, unless it came out like in the last 8 hours or something. But it's really looking like they're trying to force this through, and we'll probably try to do it in early June.
Mhm.
So keep those timelines in mind and like really accelerate your pressure. I would also encourage you reaching out to people that you know in other municipalities. And maybe even if you travel for work, participate in some leafleting in places that you happen to be passing through. It can actually reach people. It can make a big difference.
And so we have a lot of the literature online. I sent that link already. It's like a bunch of links. So I will also send a follow-up email with the recording and the links as well so that you all have it and you can share it amongst your coworkers, friends, resident association. So also, if you're a part of a resident association, they really care about your vote. They love house owners. They love it. So we want to make sure that we are reaching out to our resident association saying, hey, you don't like your green parks being basically demolished and built over and having high rises, scare them. And like this is the option. This is what essentially can happen if Bill 5 is passed. And so we want to make sure that we are protecting our green spaces. And so again, environmental groups are really aware of this, but residential groups are resident associations are very powerful in this circumstances as well. Faith-based groups are very important. They really care about um, reaching out to like different demographics because again, they care about the votes. Postering your area, we have the posters again I just mentioned, but then we need to also share. Um, okay, that's great, Yobi. Thank you so much for sending your comment. And so again, these are kind of the tips that we can, oh, not this one. These are the tips that we can use to write the comments, write the emails, request the meetings as well. So we want to make sure that we are doing this. I hope that you guys are kind of like, uh, taking notes or like brainstorming. Um, and so let's do something fun. Okay, here. Let's all find our current MPP. I sent the link in the chat. And we can call them all together or Clara, what do you think? It'll be more beneficial to call MPP or just Doug Ford, or we can do both. We have
Let's do your
20.
MPP. Do your
Yeah.
MPP. Yeah.
Okay.
Then
MPP.
why not? Let's do another one after. Doug Ford.
All
Sure.
right. We'll do. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have. I'm gonna do it too. My cell phone's right here. Um. Okay. So here you just put in um oh, your postal code and you can just search.
Can I ask a question while we're doing that?
Yeah.
My
Oh,
MPP wrote me back, and he just sent me. I think I said this already, but he said, "See the message below from the minister," and it's like, "Thank you for your concern," and basically saying that the changes are not so bad, and it's going to increase. They're going to put 4.5 million per year into the conservation program, which an increase of 4.5 million. So, what would you think is a good response back to that?
Hound him. Just keep going. Just keep saying, I expect you to vote against this bill and I will not buy what you're selling me.
Okay, I'm gonna
Like
just
because
over and over again.
they're very trying to sell you something. It's very politician talk, and it's like,
yeah.
oh, this is not my problem. This is a ministry's problem. And even the conservation that the money that they're putting into conservation. Laura, do you want to talk more about what that means to them?
Yeah, I find that really dishonest
Yeah.
because it removes all existing environmental protections and replaces it with what is essentially, if you actually read the letter of the law, optional funding, funding opportunities that they can choose to delegate. This feels especially dishonest to me because the government can already choose to delegate funding opportunities to conservation initiatives at any time already. So it feels like a massive smokescreen in the legislation, and I don't particularly care for it as someone working in volunteer habitat restoration.
And I'm curious, who is your MPP? Let's just like call them out like right now.
Yeah, his it's a Lauren Cole. I'm in Whitby. Lauren Cole
Lauren
in
Cole.
Whitby.
Are they what party?
Conservative.
Oh, okay, then yeah, you you're doing great. Like keep
Yeah,
harassing them because
he
like
stayed in my phone. I didn't have to look him up, There's lots.
yeah, yeah, you're doing great. So like again, and then again, if your MPP is progressive, for example, Dolly Begum, she's a very progressive politician. She's also very active, and but I'm not seeing any protests. I'm not seeing any rallies. So this is something that we can talk about progressive politicians, like where is it that they're doing? Here, let me send you the Sonia, would you be able to send them the flyers if you don't mind?
Yeah, it's in the chat, but I will send it again because I think it got buried a little bit.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Can I
please
ask-
go ahead.
Okay. I'm hearing you talk about having like protests or getting people together, which, I'm all for. However, ever since I've heard about this, and I think it's so terrible and it's literally keeping me up at night, is like, why are we not like getting like, creating a really big one? Like, I feel like there's so many people like
Yeah.
Margaret Atwood. There's so many people in the arts. There's so many like people who have influence and power, especially in the city of Toronto, that I know of, and that I kind of know who I feel like would, speak out against this bill in a very huge, massive way and educate the public. Because I know people who
Mhm.
are even in the climate world who don't even, or who are activists and they don't even know about it. Like, we have to educate people really soon. Is anyone planning a really big event? Like, I feel like we need a big in-person event and have like Paul Gross, Margaret Atwood, like a bunch of people who I
Mhm.
think would care and speak out. I know that's a massive thing, but is there
No, no,
thinking
no, that's
about that?
awesome.
Yeah.
That's a really good question, honestly, Ingrid. Like, not question, but comment as well. So there is going to, well, I can't promise it, but we're a very small organization. Like, I
Yeah.
don't get
Yeah.
so we are reaching out to other groups to ensure, like the larger groups, and ensuring that they are doing something. We're pushing them as well. So because of how fast this is moving, um, it is hard to organize, essentially. Like it is very hard. Even the education, even understanding this bill, it is hard. Like people don't know what the Endangered Species Act even does, right? So if you are not an environmentalist, if you are not in that circle,
Yeah.
you don't care, but you also don't know, right? And
And they're so
that's
sneaky. And anyone, I know a few people who have received the same response as a few people on this, and it makes it look like, oh no, they're taking care of it. They're throwing more money at it. So people don't know it. It sounds like they're actually not doing anything bad. So
exactly,
they're so
exactly. And
sneaky.
no, I completely agree. And then on top of that, your comment about influential people in Toronto, Ontario, we need to hold those people accountable too. So like if you see Bill 5, Instagram, Facebook, anything, even if you have their like professional emails, send it to them. Like we need to, this is something that requires immediate action
Yeah.
because it's being moved so fast. And
Yeah.
so if you have, I don't know if Margaret Atwood has Instagram, but if she has Instagram, tag her in those things and be like, why are you not speaking up?
Yeah,
Like,
no, we should. I was working on the CBC campaign, and it's also that's the problem is we just went through the federal election, and we asked so many favors of so many people for the CBC campaign, and now it's like bugging people again. Like his timing is so terrible and sneaky, and he knows exactly what he's doing. It's so gross. So for sure, I was trying to get the letter. I wrote a letter today to a bunch of people about it, just with like bullet points, and I'm trying to get it to Feist. And anyway, because I know she cares. Like I'm just like, who else can we bug about
yeah.
this?
And honestly, even just sending an open letter from like a faith-based group, your run club, like it can be very small. Like it doesn't have, it can be like any, like, oh, you have a cleanup group that you're just a part of, you're part of like Toronto Nature Stores, or you're part of like some localized group. You
Mm-hmm.
can send that letter to the news as well. And because if we have enough people just emailing and making a fuss and make like again being aggressively annoying, it will help. Any questions as well before we move on to calling? Sorry, you just keep talking. Okay, so now that we all have our MVPs numbers, let's all mute ourselves and give people a call. Again, social media is great. Love it, Jennifer. Yes. Okay. So, oh, sorry. I'm gonna mute myself. We're all gonna give them our MPP a call. Those who have their cameras on, if I don't see your phone on you or like I don't know, you can come back too. It's fine. Um, all good because I know some of you are on your Okay, great. Sorry, I hope I'm not interrupting any of you guys. Should we call Doug Ford? Like, should we? Clara, what do you think? Left
Yeah,
a
get him.
voicemail.
Why not?
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's great.
There's
Yeah,
often somebody at Doug's Ford's office, just so you know, that you might get a person. It doesn't mean it, they're just taking the message. It's not a big
yeah,
deal.
essentially. And again, we want to be respectful, we want to be kind, we want to be like, again, because they're staffers, they probably don't like him either. I'm joking. Don't say I said that. Okay, let's call Doug Ford. Is there a script that we can use? Yes, let's open that up. Okay, sorry, let me get that. I'm just going to share the script on my screen. It's going to be the script for calling your MPP, or sorry, a templated letter. But you can kind of change it around to fit your, requirements. Or I can also share, Jennifer, what would you find useful? Like if I could share the slide with I oppose Bill 5, I oppose, here, let me show that slide. Sorry, my computer's like kind of slow right now. Okay, let's do the slide. I think that would be helpful. Oh my God, sorry. Oh my God. I'm not supposed to be on charge of Zoom. Okay, there. Okay, I'll put them side by side just so that you have both. Oh, no, that's my. There you go. Okay, so again, this is a letter. You can kind of figure out if that's something that you want to use, or you could use this and essentially just like say um, this part, and essentially where you're coming from, who you are, and what your name is as well. You can share any of the posters. Feel free. Okay, let's call that for. Sorry, I know some of you guys already doing. Okay, so no one's picking up. That's fine. Um, I'll email him. It's fine. I'll call him another day. But I just want to close off with I thank you all for attending. Should I wait? Oh, they hung up. Okay. Okay, sounds good. So thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it. And if you do want to organize, any tips on organizing, if you need literature, if you need support, please reach out to us. We're very, very welcome to help. Um, we're small, but we can really create unity over this particular bill. If you have any questions, you can stay on and ask them. Feel free to unmute yourself. If you have any comments, if you have any ideas, feel free to share them as well. We'll just stay on until